This is P.Y. Lalit Chaitanya, lecturer in Commerce, Garment City College. Today's topic is Steps to Start an Enterprise. Let us move on to the concept of objective and the introduction for setting up of a new business enterprise. Here, setting up of a new business enterprise implies taking major decisions regarding formation of an enterprise and completing procedures and formalities in its formation. Setting up of a business unit is not an easy task. It requires a proper evaluation of a number of factors in relation to the business environment and available resources. So here, for setting up of a new business enterprise, we have to take a major decisions regarding the formation of an enterprise. A complete formalities is required for formation of an enterprise. So it is not an easy task to start up in a business unit. It requires a proper evaluation. So, and available resources also required for the setting up of a new business enterprise. Now, move on to the what are the factors to be considered while setting up of an enterprise. Here, various factors that need to be considered while setting up a business enterprise can broadly categorized under. Here, the first one is promotion of business. Promotion of business is nothing but promotion may be defined as the discovery of business opportunities and subsequent organization of funds, property, and managerial ability into business concern for the purpose of making profit thereof. The person who discovers a business opportunity and initiate the process of promotion known as a promoter. Here, there are 4 important steps in the task of promotion. The first one is discovery. Discovery means searching for a new business opportunity. Discovery means searching for a new business opportunity. Such opportunity may take one or more of the following forms. Here, the first one is to start a new concern, to expand an existing concern, to form a combination, to purchase a going concern. So what we have to discover means searching of a new business opportunity. So what for we have to search means to start a new concern, how to expand for the existing concern, and to purchase a going concern. So this will be coming, the following forms are the points in discovery. Let us move on to the second factor, that is investigation. Here, the investigation is the second step in promotion. Is the true investigation of these includes. Here the first one is investigation of idea itself. Second one, degree of competition. Third one, locational factors. Fourth one, availability of resources. Investigation means the second step in promotion is the through investigation. So investigation of idea itself, degree of competition, locational factors, availability of resources. About all these aspects we have to investigate. So this is the second step in promotion. Through investigation, we can identify all these things. And move on to the third point, that is assembly. Assembly includes arrangement of various factors of production, that is men, machines, materials, money, managerial ability and methods. The entrepreneur should locate the optimal sources of these resources and procure them on competitive terms. The assembly of these resources to a great extent depends upon the location of business unit. Even the subsidies and assistance provided by the government for locating the industrial units in the underdeveloped regions should be given a due consideration. So here it means assembly is including the arrangements of various factors of production, that is men, machines, materials, money, managerial ability and methods. So all the optimal sources of these resources is very important in competitive terms. So the assembly of these resources to the great extent depends upon the location of business unit. Let us move on to the next point, that is finance. Although arrangement of finance, both short term as well as long term, has been considered during the assembly stage, a special reference has been made to the same as finance in the lifeblood of business. So here, the long-term success and failures of any business depends upon the availability of adequate finance and its optimum utilization. This stage includes financial budgeting, determination of a capital structure, estimating working capital requirements, locating sources of finance, procuring it and finally making a judicious use. So the success of a business mainly depends upon the finance. So failure of any business depends upon the availability and adequate finance and optimum utilization. How you are utilizing your money is the main important in the business. Now move on to the next, that is topic is choice of business organization. Here there are a number of forms of business organization: sole proprietorship, partnership, joint stock company and cooperative organizations are the primary form of organization. An entrepreneur should select a right type of organization considering the size, scale and objectives of business enterprise. Each of these forms has its own characteristic advantages and disadvantages. The following factors should be taken into consideration while selecting an appropriate form of business organization. So in the business organizations, there are forms of business organization, as we all of them will know that: sole trader, partnership, joint stock company and cooperative organizations. All these are the primary forms of an organization. So here an entrepreneur should select a right type of organization considering the size, scale and objective of the business enterprise. The meaning of this is this. So, some of the following factors should be taken into the consideration while selecting an appropriate form of business organization. Here, the first factor here is size and scale of operation. A small sized firm having a limited operations may establish a sole trading concern or partnership firm. While a large sized company operating at a national level or international level should float a joint stock company or a multinational companies. Coming on to the next point, that is formalities and complexities. Formalities and complexities, it is easy to start sole trading concern or a partnership firm. There are less number of formalities involved in the formation of sole trading business and partnership business. While the formation of a company involves large number of complicated and time consuming formalities. Large number of complicated and time consuming formalities. Whereas in other formation of companies. Move on to the next point, that is capacity to raise funds. Capacity to raise funds. Different form of organization have a different capacity to raise the finance. Sole trading concern and partnership firms have a limited capacity to raise finance, while a company has a vast scope of raising finance from the entire country or even the world. While the formation of a company involves large number of complicated and time consuming, vast means while company has a vast scope of raise finance from the entire country or even the world, but whereas some businesses like sole trading concern and partnership firms have a limited capacity to raise the finance, while a company has a vast scope of raising a finance from the entire country. And next point, coming to the next point, that is continuity and stability. The continuity and stability of sole trading concern and partnership firm depends upon the life of the sole trader and partners. On the other hand, a joint stock company enjoys perpetual succession, that is, it is not affected by the death of its members. The continuity of the stability of sole trading and partnership firm depends upon the life of sole trader and partners. On the other hand, a joint stock company enjoys a perpetual succession. It is not affected by the death of members. So it will continue continuously. Whereas in the sole trading business and partnership business, if sole trader dies, the business comes to end. If partners dies also, the business comes to end. But whereas in the joint stock company, the company never comes to an end. It will be handed over to some other person by transferring the shares. Move on to the next point, that is effectiveness of management. Sole trading concern and partnership firms are managed by the owners themselves, who are not professionals in their approach. Whereas on the other hand, companies are managed by the board of professionals known as the board of directors. So, effectiveness of management is good in the companies compared to the sole trading and partnership business, because they are not in professional in nature. Due to that, there will be a lacking of some skills, whereas in the companies are managed by the professionals known as the board of directors. So effectiveness will be there in the management in the companies than the business units. And move on to the next point, that is the government regulations. Government exercises control over the functioning of business sector through its various acts and policies. Many of these acts pertain to large-scale companies. These acts must be considered while selecting a business organization. It is known as government regulation. Move on to the next point, that is the tax liability. Different forms of business are subjected to different slabs of taxation. Joint stock companies are subjects to more tax than sole trading concern or partnership firm. A due consideration must be given to tax liability before selecting a business organization. Coming to the next point, that is ability of entrepreneur. Last but not least, an entrepreneur must consider his own ability and mental and physical capacities. If an entrepreneur is experienced, then he can float a company organizations. Otherwise, it is advisable to establish a sole trading concern or partnership firm. Plant location and layout. Next topic in this is plant location and layout. The decision regarding the establishment of an industrial unit may be taken after reviewing the several M's, that is men, material, machinery, market, motive, power, means of transportation and momentum of an early start. The following are the factors that are involved in planning of the plant location, that is selection of site. So, the first factor is selection of site is for planning of plant location is, while selecting a site for the location of a plant, various factors such as topography, the type of development of land, cost of leveling, load bearing capacity of the site, flood and earthquake, hazards, possibility of plant expansion, and availability of other infrastructural facilities should be considered. These factors play a major role in deciding the location of a plant. Move on to the second point, that is nearness to market. Generally, production centers are concentrated in a particular region and distribution centers are spread far and wide. Therefore, it is necessary to transport goods from the center of production to the center of consumption. This involves huge transportation cost. Thus, in order to save the cost of transportation, production units must be located near the major centers of consumption. Move on to the next point, that is access to raw materials. One of the factors involved in planning of a plant location is access to raw materials. In case of certain industries, raw materials is bulky and weight losing. Such industries are known as raw material oriented industries. For example, sugar industry, cotton industry, cotton textile industry, etc. Such industries are located near the source of raw materials. In order to ensure uninterrupted and continuous flow of production activity. Next one is availability of labor. Labor cost is a major constituent of the total cost of production, especially in labor intensive industries. In India, the problem of any industry is not of getting adequate laborers, but of getting quality laborers. Thus, industries tend to concentrate in and around urban areas where there is an adequate supply of skilled as well as unskilled laborers. Next point is infrastructural facilities. The smooth functioning of any industry depends upon the provision of effective, efficient infrastructure facilities such as power and fuel supply, water supply, storage and warehousing facilities, banking services and communication facilities, etc. That is why industries tend to develop in and around areas where these facilities are available. Move on to the next point, that is local taxes and restrictions. Local authorities collect taxes for water supply, electricity and other facilities. High local taxation discourages location of industries in the region. At the same time, location of industries is also affected by restrictions imposed by the government on certain industries in certain specific regions. For example, environmental restrictions on location of industries, next one is move on to the government policies. The industrial policy of the government directly affects the location of industries. The government may provide certain incentives and assistance for setting up industries in the remote areas in order to further its goal of balanced regional development. Such incentives encourage location of industries in the remote and backward regions. Move on to the size of business unit. The term size refers to the scale of operations. A number of criteria are used to determine the size of business unit. Some of these criteria are volume of output, capital investment, plant capacity, value of product, number of employees, etc. The most widely used criteria is the volume of output. Various factors that affect the size of business unit are availability of finance. There is a direct relationship between the size of an enterprise and need of finance. Just now we have discussed. If an entrepreneur can arrange adequate finance on a reasonable terms, then he can opt for large sized unit and vice versa. Move on to the next point, that is the nature of demand. If a product under consideration has stable demand over a longer period of time and has chances of expansion in the future, then the size of business unit can be large and vice versa. Move on to the degree of risk. Next point, that is the degree of risk. If a business venture is subject to a high degree of risk, such as risk due to changes in tastes and preferences of consumers, government policies, etc., then the size of unit will be a small and vice versa. Move on to the next point, that is the size of market. If the size of a market for a period under consideration is small and restricted to the local or regional level, then the size of a unit will be small. However, if the product is demanded all over the nation or a world, then the size of unit will be a large. Coming to the next point, that is the nature of competition. Along with the size of a market, an entrepreneur must assess the nature of competition in the market. If the market under consideration is already saturated by the competitors, then the size of business should be small and vice versa. Next, move on to the government regulation. Next point. In some countries, the government restricts the size of business enterprise in order to prevent concentration of wealth in few hands. Such action of the government restricts the size of business enterprise and also the ability of the entrepreneur. Last but not least, an entrepreneur must be considered his own ability. If an entrepreneur is experienced, then he can handle a large size business. Otherwise, it is advisable to make a beginning with a small sized business. So, this is about the size of a business unit. So here the process of conceiving a business idea, that is steps in setting up of a business enterprise. The process of conceiving a business idea and convert into an action is known as promotion. A promoter faces a number of problems and difficulties while starting up of a business. The steps involved and problems faced by the promoter vary according to the nature and size of proposed business enterprise. The various decisions or steps in setting up of a new business units are determination of objectives, selection of business activity, size of business unit, form of business enterprise, location of a business, financial planning, selection of technology, procedural and legal formalities, building an internal organization, manpower planning, tax planning, launching business enterprise. So all these are the steps in setting up of a business enterprise. These are the steps we have to follow for starting up or setting up of a business enterprise.